Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories every week. Today's story is one that many people have quietly wondered about. It's a journey of silence, healing, and rediscovery. A journey that belongs to a man the world thought it knew. A man who vanished without warning and returned with a truth of his own. At 61, Johnny Depp is finally speaking from a place of honesty. Not as a celebrity, not as a performer, but as a human being. This story isn't about fame, scandals, or headlines. It's about a man trying to reclaim pieces of himself that were lost. For decades, Johnny Depp lived under the brightest lights of Hollywood. Millions watched him transform into unforgettable characters on screen. But behind the scenes, a different story was unfolding quietly. The world believed they understood him, his choices, his life. Yet the truth was far more complicated than anyone imagined. Depp now admits that fame shaped a version of him that never felt real. It created expectations he couldn't escape, even when he tried. Success brought applause, but it also brought wounds. Wounds that never had the chance to heal. And eventually, those wounds began pulling him away. In 2023, Johnny Depp disappeared from Hollywood without warning. There were no goodbye interviews or dramatic statements. He simply packed his belongings and left his Los Angeles home behind. One day he was everywhere, the next day nowhere. No paparazzi photos, no airport sightings, no red carpet moments. Just silence surrounding a man who was once impossible to avoid. Reporters kept waiting, but nothing came from him for months. Fans asked questions that no one could answer. Hollywood's most recognizable figure had become invisible. But the truth behind the disappearance was deeply personal. Depp later revealed he didn't leave to be mysterious. He left because survival required distance. He moved quietly to Somerset, England, far from cameras and chaos. Not for luxury, not for show, but for peace. His new home was large, yet his life there became simple. He woke before sunrise, walked alone, and read outdoors. Friends said he barely spoke during those first months. It wasn't anger that silenced him, it was exhaustion. Years of noise had drained him more than he realized. Somerset became the first place where he could breathe again. Yet even in isolation, something unexpected began shifting inside him. He wasn't disappearing, as many feared, he was rebuilding. Far from film sets and contracts, he found a different voice. A voice not made of dialogue or scripts. A voice made of colors, shapes, and raw emotion. Painting soon became his quiet companion. It allowed him to release feelings he had carried for years. Feelings he never expressed publicly, no matter the pressure. Somerset wasn't just a hiding place, it became a workshop for healing. And healing, for Johnny Depp, began on canvas. Art had always followed Depp through his life in shadows. But after 2022, it transformed into something much deeper. It became a private therapy, a place he could speak without speaking. He painted late into the night, sometimes until dawn. The colors were muted, the images fractured, the emotions heavy. Each stroke revealed a piece of his internal battles. When his collection, A Bunch of Stuff, debuted in New York in 2024, it shocked many. People expected bright portraits, but found haunting stillness instead. Collectors described the paintings as windows into a broken spirit. Depp simply saw them as steps toward putting himself back together. The exhibition became an emotional milestone in his return. Prints sold for tens of thousands of dollars within days. Sales crossed millions, but the money didn't matter to him. What mattered was honesty he couldn't show before. Critics called his work visual silence, quiet mourning, emotional confession. But for Depp, they were simply truths he couldn't speak aloud. Painting captured his heartbreak and sense of betrayal. It captured years of being misunderstood and misjudged. It allowed him to feel seen without stepping into the spotlight. And slowly, it helped him breathe again. But another part of his soul soon awakened as well. Long before Hollywood, Johnny Depp had another love, music. Music had been the first thing that helped him escape a difficult youth. It had been his shelter before fame changed everything. So when life pushed him away from film, he returned to sound. He reunited with Alice Cooper and Joe Perry of Hollywood Vampires. This time, he didn't return for fame or frenzy. He returned because music felt like truth. On stage, he was no longer performing for applause. He was playing to rediscover himself. During the band's European tour, fans noticed something different in him. Gone was the wild energy of his past performances. Instead, he played with quiet focus and emotional calm. Every note felt deliberate, as if grounding him. When he performed Bowie's Heroes, audiences felt his vulnerability. It wasn't just a tribute, it felt like a confession. His voice revealed softness that fans had never heard before. Off stage, he kept to himself, often sitting alone with his guitar. He didn't chase chaos or nightlife anymore. He was healing through melody, not madness. By late 2022, Depp had made a life-altering decision. He chose sobriety, quietly, privately, without announcements. He didn't enter rehab or seek attention for it. He simply removed the things that once clouded his mind. Over time, the change became visible to those around him. He grew leaner, his eyes clearer, his presence calmer. Locals saw him walking through the countryside at dawn. Sometimes he visited the small library he quietly supported. Sometimes he read alone in his garden for hours. These routines anchored him during the quietest chapter of his life. But his past was not something he could ignore forever. The wounds left by the Amber Heard controversy ran deep. It began in 2016 with allegations that shocked the world. Depp stayed silent, believing truth would reveal itself. Instead, silence worked against him in ways he never expected. Studios cut ties before hearing his side of the story. He was removed from iconic roles without due process. Headlines painted him as guilty before a single hearing. It was a punishment delivered long before evidence was examined. And that punishment nearly broke him. In 2018, things worsened when a newspaper labeled him a wife-beater. Depp sued for libel in the UK, hoping to reclaim his name. But the court ruled against him, damaging his reputation further. Tabloids mocked him. Studios distanced themselves. He retreated from public life, overwhelmed by judgment. Friends described him as restless, frustrated, even shattered. Whispers and rumors felt like another weight he couldn't carry. He paced, drank, and struggled privately with fear and anger. Hollywood turned away faster than he could understand. He felt betrayed by an industry he once devoted his life to. Everything changed when audio recordings reached the public. For the first time, people heard a different side of the story. The narrative that once condemned him began to shift. Millions demanded that the world re-examine the truth. Hashtags supporting Depp spread across social media. Suddenly, he wasn't alone in the fight anymore. The world saw cracks in the story they once believed. And so, in 2022, he filed a defamation case in Virginia. Not to attack, but to reclaim his voice. A voice long buried under accusations. The 6-week trial exposed years of painful memories. Depp described injuries, emotional cruelty, and deep betrayal. More than 30 witnesses shared their experiences. Some spoke of Heard's aggression behind closed doors. The courtroom became a stage of truth and heartbreak. People around the world watched every moment unfold. When the jury ruled in Depp's favor, it felt historic. But victory did not bring immediate peace. It only closed a chapter that had dragged on for years. The emotional wounds still needed time to heal. After the verdict, Depp withdrew completely for 2 months. He didn't celebrate, travel, or give interviews. He stayed alone, processing everything he had endured. In a private letter, he wrote one sentence that said everything. "I didn't fight to win. I fought to survive." The words carried exhaustion, not triumph. They revealed how deeply the battle had damaged him. He needed silence, rest, and space to breathe again. And Somerset offered exactly that. A place where he could rebuild without judgment. Life in Somerset marked the beginning of his quiet rebirth. He embraced slow mornings and peaceful routines. He reconnected with nature after years of noise. Locals described him as humble and approachable. He seemed lighter, calmer, present in ways he never was before. He no longer lived like a celebrity guarded by walls. He lived like a man rediscovering simple joys: gardening, reading, walking, activities that grounded him. For the first time, he lived without performing. And that made all the difference. His emotional growth became clear during an art event in France. A reporter cautiously asked about Amber Heard. Everyone expected tension or anger in his response. Instead, Depp paused with a surprising calm. He said softly, "The past is over. It's time to move on." There was no bitterness in his voice. No resentment, no desire to reopen old wounds. It was the answer of a man who had finally let go. Those words stunned the room more than any headline. Johnny Depp had stopped rehearsing his pain. As he stepped into this new version of himself, opportunities returned. But this time, he chose differently. He no longer chased blockbusters or franchises. He wasn't interested in proving anything to Hollywood. He wanted stories that resonated with the man he had become. Stories with depth, vulnerability, honesty. Hollywood no longer defined him, but art still mattered. And slowly, he began selecting roles with intention. Not for fame, but for meaning. Not for applause, but for truth. His return began at the Cannes Film Festival in 2023. He appeared for the premiere of Jean du Barry. The crowd rose to its feet for 7 emotional minutes. It wasn't just admiration, it was recognition of a survivor. Director Maïwenn said she chose him because no one else could play the role. Depp portrayed King Louis XV with quiet intensity. His performance reflected everything he had lived through. It was deliberate, layered, and deeply human. The moment marked not a comeback, but a rebirth. A man stepping back into the world on his own terms. Soon after, director Mark Webb approached him with Day Drinker. The character wasn't heroic or glamorous. He was fragile, broken, searching for himself. Webb said Depp was the only one who could embody such rawness. Penelope Cruz joined him in the intimate drama. The film mirrored Depp's reality more than any before. It was about vulnerability, survival, and quiet transformation. Depp didn't hesitate, this was the kind of story he understood. Not loud, not flashy, but deeply real. A role chosen from the heart, not the career plan. Then came a surprising offer from Terry Gilliam. He wanted Depp to play Satan in the carnival at the end of days. Not as a monster, but as a calm, reflective force. Gilliam said Depp carried a rare balance of darkness and stillness. A balance shaped by everything he had survived. Depp didn't rush to accept the role. He no longer made decisions out of fear or pressure. He chose only what aligned with his newfound peace. He reminded friends that Hollywood no longer controlled him. He would return only if his heart agreed. What defined this chapter wasn't the roles themselves. It was the thoughtful way he approached each one. No desperation, no need to prove anything. Just a desire to create with intention. For the first time in decades, Depp wasn't chasing a career. He was simply choosing what felt meaningful. He had shed the personas that fame forced onto him. He stood as a quieter, wiser, more grounded man. His identity wasn't tied to Hollywood anymore. It was tied to peace, art, and authenticity. At 61, Johnny Depp is living a life that finally belongs to him. A life shaped by simplicity, art, and healing. A life where he answers only to himself, not to headlines. He has walked through storms that would have broken many. Yet he emerged softer, not harder. Quieter, not defeated. He found freedom not in returning to fame, but in letting go of it. He stopped being the man the world expected him to be. And began being the man he truly is. A man rebuilding quietly, steadily, intentionally. His journey is not about glory or redemption. It's about reclaiming humanity after years of chaos. It's about healing from wounds that fame could never cover. It's about surviving judgment and rediscovering self-worth. Johnny Depp's story is a reminder that even icons are human. They bleed, they break, they rebuild. They seek peace the way anyone else does. Through art, music, silence, or solitude. And sometimes, through walking away from everything. Just to feel whole again. Now that Depp has shared the truth behind his disappearance, a question remains. Should he return fully to Hollywood, or continue the peaceful life he's created? Is the world ready to respect his boundaries and choices? Or is he better off living on his own terms far from the cameras? We want to hear what you think about his journey. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more stories that matter. Thank you for watching till the end. And remember, peace is sometimes the greatest comeback of all.